Are you ready?
I'm ready.
We can go. Frank, just kind of tell me, why did you choose to come to Brazil, and why did you choose Summit program?
Two different answers, definitely. I chose Brazil because it's like a mainstream point of view of Miami to go to Europe. It's an awesome trip. Summit does one too, and I wanted to do that later in my life, so I felt like it was a better time to go to Brazil. And then I started researching it. Jack and I collaborated, and we heard personal referrals of Summit, and that's what really sold me. If I didn't talk to friends of mine or Summit alumni, then I probably wouldn't have chose this. And I was sold from that day forward. We started working on the visa.
Great. How about the course itself? When you came, which courses did you take, and why did you enjoy it, or what have you learned?
The courses I chose were Portuguese and international business. I chose Portuguese because I knew I was going to a country where they didn't speak my language, and I wanted to have some, and I'm not fluent in the language yet, so that's something I want to do. I'll keep working on my Portuguese. And then international business because originally I wanted to be a business major at Miami, but I chose something different, and it's still an interest of mine, so it was cool to learn international business in a different country.
In one sense, how did the program surprise you? Is there any good surprise or anything you're not expecting that it came through? What was it?
My biggest surprise was when we moved from Parachi to Rio, and like coming up the stairs of the apartment we were staying in, and it was like kind of grimy, like dark. I didn't know what I was expecting. The one in Parachi was like smaller, and then I opened the door and it's this amazing apartment. Looking out, you see the Christ statue, you see Rio, and you're close to the beach. And I was like, oh, I get to stay here for 3 weeks. It's awesome.
And how was the experience of, instead of living in a hotel, being in the middle of the city, in an apartment, sharing the apartment with your friends? How was that experience? Tell us a bit about it.
Sharing the apartment with friends is enormous. I'm here with one of my best friends right now, and then the two other kids that stayed with us, they're definitely friends of mine now too, and I'm glad it's like that. I got to meet tons of different people on the trip, people from the trip, people living in these areas. What was the other part of the question?
I mean, how is it different from staying at a hotel or maybe at a dorm? How would it make the trip different to stay like in an apartment? How did your daily life was in Rio? Talk a little bit more.
When you're out in public, you have like no privacy. Like the buses are like so tight and compact, and then when you come back to your apartment, like you have a level of privacy, and you can do your own thing. You sleep well here. When we were in the hotel in Sao Paulo, it was an interesting stay. We had just like a 2-person room, and it was cool living like a room of 4 because it's more interaction. I prefer it.
All right. We talk about courses and professional visits. Is there any professional visit that really got your attention, and why did you enjoy it? Why do you think the professional visits, do they make a difference at the course? Talk a little bit about that.
They do make a difference, especially because you're simultaneously taking a business course, or at least I was, international business, and it coincides with the class that way. H-Stern was my favorite. We had this whole presentation where he gave the history, and then we eventually got to go on an auditory tour, and you go actually like in a maze of like their workshop, and they're all working behind the glass, and you see them like making these fine jewels, and you're learning at the same time. I wish I could buy the jewelry. It was really nice.
How would you summarize your experience here, Frank? What do you think that it made? Which kind of difference does it make in your life? What does going to the study abroad, provides you, or what are you going to tell your friends? I don't know. How would you summarize it?
I thought it's a tough question. I thought it was there's definitely like a political side of the trip. Like I'm not a huge politics person in America, but I definitely have to learn more now. and learning about the way they do things in Brazil was just like thought-provoking in a way. I didn't know countries ran that way. I didn't know very much about Brazil before the trip. They don't teach us much like in our courses in America, but I definitely learned something that I could only learn if I came to Brazil. You couldn't learn it online, like you have to be here.
And how would you recommend the program to a friend of yours? So what would you say about the program?
I definitely will do this because that was my answer to the last one, is you have to talk to someone about it. So having that face-to-face connection is huge. And I would tell someone, I tell them you want to do this trip because it's really interactive. Like you're doing something every day. You have your days, planned out, and then you have Sunday if you want to rest. And you're always engaged with Brazil. You're not like sitting in a hotel room, like waiting to go to class, eating Brazilian food. You're actually like walking around, learning about different parts of the city, going on tours with Mike. It's a good chance to practice your Portuguese too.
And if you would summarize the whole trip in a word or in a sentence, how would that be?
Well, I'd have to go with a phrase.
Okay, go.
When I was watching the World Cup and they kept showing like the office from Copacabana, that's so cool. Like, Rio is the most beautiful city, and then it became kind of a dream of mine. Like I got to go to that city one day, and then I got this opportunity, and it's over now. It's the last day. I'm sad. It was an incredible time. That I'd say I was living the dream. Yeah.